802,260,429 naira only, made up of personnel costs of 1,482,876,255 naira, which is being controlled by IPPIS, and overhead costs of 278.665 million naira only. The ministry has so far received an overhead cost release in the sum of 139.332 million naira. The capital appropriation for the main ministry is 31.04 billion naira. The main ministry has received the first tranche as soon as we receive more funds and the procurement processes are concluded. Details of the performance are presented in the attached document, Annex 2. And this table just gives an overview. The main ministry has no allocation for zonal intervention in financial year 2019, but the River Basin Development Authorities were allocated the sum of 13,076,824,310 naira. Details of 2019 zonal interventions for the River Development Authorities and other agencies are attached as Annex 3. The main ministry generated a revenue from tender fees as follows. January to December 2018, 20,495,400 naira. January to September 2019, 24,190,449 naira 50 kobo. Kindly note that the amounts generated in 2018 were remitted to FIRS and CRF as stipulated by law, while the revenue for 2019 is yet to be remitted because procurement is still ongoing at the moment. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee may wish to also know that I took a personal initiative to ensure that this ministry is free from the huge liability that I inherited when I assumed duty as minister in November 2015. I directed concerned departments, River Basin Development Authorities and other agencies to be making provisions within their media expenditure ceilings towards reducing the huge debts which had accumulated over the years. That's why we created budget lines for liabilities. This is why even in the financial year 2020 proposal, we come across these provisions. One of the key problems we've been facing, if I may digress a bit, especially apart from the inherited projects, is that sometimes, especially for zonal intervention projects as well, when a member does not come back, is not returned to the house, sometimes that project. So it's among one of the reasons why we try to have this kind of liability, because it doesn't make sense for a project to have been started and not completed. And without a project sponsor, chances are that that project will never see any financing again. The total liabilities for the main ministry as of today stand at 89,094,487,717 naira 83 kobo. Mr. Chairman and members will get a clear picture of our liabilities as individual River Basin Development Authorities and agencies appear before you for the defense of their 2020 budgets respectively. Details of the liabilities are attached as Annex 4. In the executive proposal before you for 2020 budget, the main ministry and its parastatals have a total allocation of 87,254,461,123 naira, made up of personnel costs of 7,809,697,061 naira, and overhead costs of 1,066,260,605 naira, as well as the total capital proposal. I would like also to draw the attention of the committee to note that in the selection of projects for the 2020 capital budget proposal, the ministry paid particular attention to projects that could make significant impact on infrastructure development and roll over the 2019 projects that could not be implemented. The ministry still believes that with adequate and timely releases of budgetary allocations to the sector, we'll be able to achieve our set targets and contribute immensely towards the realization of the policy thoughts of the Buhari administration. Let me reiterate the fact that the ministry will continue to carry out its mandate more efficiently and effectively with your understanding and kind support.
Outside the box. When I came in, I heard the Honourable Minister say, he was saying that no commercial activities yet. Honourable Minister, please let there be thinking outside the box that can make commercial activities to start in earnest so that we can make progress. We can now see that where we are heading to. If we have all the personnel and we are giving money to them for the current, we are giving them money for overhead 2 times, but there is nothing that can happen as to the capital that they are supposed to do. What are we doing? What is the whole essence of governance? So we need to think outside the box so that we stop thinking of how much we can get from federal allocation, but what can our ministry contribute to itself and then contribute to the federation account. This should be a take home for the minister, and the minister should be able to feedback my chairman on those strategies so that we start implementation. Thank you.
As regards the Ogun-Osun River Basin Development Authority, items 1 and 2 under Ogun-Osun River Basin Development Authority is located at Shiroro. And I think Shiroro is in Niger State. Yes. Shiroro is in Niger State. And Ogun-Osun River Basin Development Authority is supposed to cover Ogun, Osun, Lagos, and Oyo State. I want the Honourable Minister to throw light on why RBD project is outside the area of jurisdiction of the relevant river basin. Thank you. So, a member would sponsor a project under zonal intervention. Maybe, like we had election 2019, maybe he sponsored in the 2018 budget. And unfortunately, he didn't win his election in 2019. The new member would come, the next zonal intervention, there has been a disconnect. So he will come with a new project. And maybe this project has not been completed. It was just started under the 2019 budget. And the money appropriated is not enough to finish it. So the new member that comes will have his own priorities separate. There will not be that continuity. And that means that project is cut off. And we need to, if we can't have money to continue, we'll have to abandon it. And there are so many of them like that. I can tell you, as I'm speaking to you now, even I've seen a case of a project in Hadid Jamari in Kano that was started in 2014. And even before we became and has been abandoned midway. And now the community has been agitating, and they came to me thinking that it's a ministry project. I said, no, this is a zonal intervention project. So luckily I know the member. He's my own member. I said, okay, the contractor should go and meet the member, or the river basin should go and meet the member. If the member will be kind enough to refund the project for it, because it's a zonal intervention project, then we can continue. And that's why we need those kind of liabilities, so that we'll be able to continue with this project. Or in the alternative, I think there is probably a need for the National Assembly to have a more organized system of these zonal intervention projects. They are very, very important. They are quite, the concept is good, but there is a need for fine-tuning of the way the zonal intervention projects are being implemented, so that there can be some continuity. Because at the end of the day, the project is for the constituency. So if we can have that kind of arrangement, if the National Assembly can create that kind of vehicle to ensure that the projects are monitored and there's some effort to ensure that they continue, even when the specific member that sponsored the project is no longer there, that will be helpful. So that is what I meant, and that's why it's important to have that liability. Unfortunately, the member that asked that question is not here.
It's not here.
Oh, is he?
But it's not here.
Okay, we will transmit it. It has been taken. We have recorded. Actually, first it was you. Secretary, please record it so that it is. Okay, then again, he's not here. On the water projects, well, I don't know, he didn't specify whether they are from the ministry or from the River Basin Development Authority. But all I can say, projects are done according to the resources available. And for any water project, the first thing you need to do is to develop the source before you move to the storage and distribution. So if you cannot just come and start reticulating when you're not sure about how much amount of water you're going to get. First, you develop the source and ensure that there's adequate water, then you move to reticulation. So it's a phased thing. And I'm sure if the funding is available and the water is available from the source, the reticulation component will continue if it is in the budget. There is no agency of this ministry, nor the ministry itself, that is involved in any curtailment of project scope. If you see that the project is not delivered properly or is not delivered completely, I wouldn't say properly, I would go the word properly. If the project is not delivered completely, it's because the resources maybe are not available to continue. So if we have the resources, we'll finish every project. And our commitment is to finish projects. And that is why, since we came into office in 2015, we have not made effort to do any new large-scale project as such since that time, because we inherited 116 major ongoing projects, and our emphasis has been to try and complete as many as possible, and of course to pay the liabilities of what we inherited. So our priority is to complete projects, and as long as the funding is available, we'll never abandon projects. Then the next question was on Goronyo Dam. Yes, like many dams in the north in particular, Goronyo Dam is having a lot of problems. This has to do with poor watershed management and climate change. I know that 2 years ago the reservoir also almost dried up. Again, part of it is man-made because maybe the protocol for reservoir operations. I'm not saying Goronyo has attained that, but the only thing we can do is to manage what we have and then to try to put in some mitigation factors. I already commissioned, well, we have a terms of reference. We're planning to commission a study on why the dams in that region are drying up. Even in Katsina State, even in the basement complex of Jigawa State, where I come from, the dams are losing storage. Like I said, mainly it's climate change, but the fact that there's very, very poor watershed management. And maybe also, with due apologies to the chairman, there's been a lot of proliferation of dams in Katsina State without studying the consequences, their consequences on the watershed in general. And they have caused a lot of problems. I'll give you an example of Sakke Dam. It has lost 50% of its storage, and when we investigated, we found that one of the reasons that the 2 other dams have been constructed upstream. And therefore, and there is no outlet, so there is no connectivity, there is no hydrological connection now any longer between the 3. Ordinarily, you shouldn't have more than 1 dam for that semi-arid location. And Sakke happens to be at the downstream end. So these are some of the problems that water bill is aimed to address in the long run. But without it, the federal government does not have any authority or regulatory powers to address some of these issues. So I know people will talk of desilting, but please, from an engineering point of view, let us not talk about desilting, because it is a huge, huge, huge task. Number one, when you desilt a dam, you are excavating, and you have to find a place to dispose the soil. If you dispose it around the banks of the dam, you have done zero work, because over time, rain will wash it back into the dam. That means you have to cut it away, miles away or kilometers away. And to do that, you have to pay the contractor. Normally, in civil engineering contracts, you can dispose within 1 kilometer at no cost. But beyond 1 kilometer, You have to pay now per kilometer, per cubic meter to dispose that material. By the time you add up all those costs, you are better off finding a new location to build another dam. So that is why, especially for dams that are large, if it's a well, or it's a small pond, these are things you can do. But when you talk of dams with millions of liters of storage capacity, that is a big, big problem. So the only thing we can do is to try to find some natural ways, scientific ways of addressing. And watershed management and sediment traps and so on, these are some of the things that you can do. But when the dam has silted already, then there's nothing you can do. And some of these dams that have silted up, they have already reached their lifespan. Because for small and medium-sized dams, usually 40, 50 years lifespan. For large dams, you can have 100 years, 1,000 years, depending, again, on locations and so on. So, unfortunately, Goroyi will have to manage with what we have. If the water is reducing, one thing we can do is probably to change the crop pattern. If people are growing sugarcane, which takes a lot of water, or they are growing rice, we may think of just doing onions and vegetables in the long run, or we may think of smarter techniques of irrigation away from the open channel irrigation that we're doing now. Maybe we go to drip irrigation, which is something that the ministry is looking at developing in the Sahelian region, so that we can still have, optimize the water management in that area. I'm sorry, but that's all we can do. And just make a correction. I think what we meant here is that it's still ongoing because we're still in tender process. So, but usually we don't have a revenue account. Everybody pays directly into that, yes, as they call it. So really, it's not that we are collecting in a separate account. Thank you for the observation, Honorable Yunusa. Please, we stand corrected. Yes. Marine 2019 and 20 budget. That's exactly what we're trying to do. Like I said, our philosophy in this ministry is that projects started must be completed. And where we were scared we will not have the resources, we would prefer not to start the project if we didn't have enough money. But where we have started the project, we have an obligation to complete the project. So, as has been observed by Honorable Filata, almost 90% of the projects in our budget are ongoing, and then we want to service them to continue. So there is the 2019 has almost perfectly dovetailed into 2020. Yeah, we are rolling it over, so there is no problem about that. Any untapped revenue source, and I will consider that along with the question from the member from Oyo State and thinking outside the box. I'll tell you that the 7th or 8th item on our roadmap is thinking outside the box and finding a way to get resources, but specifically to finance our projects. So we're already thinking outside the box. But in terms of revenue, for government, I earlier mentioned the concessions that we're making. We have concessions of mini dams, but that was done by the Ministry of Power, so they are the ones that are basically remitting the money to government. But the two concessions that we have done, we're doing directly for Gurara and Kashimbila. The Gurara concession has been done already, approved by the Federal Executive Council, and that is going to bring quite a chunk of resources. But we are also working with the National Council on Privatization. We dusted this idea of commercializing the river basin development authorities. First partial commercialization and then full commercialization. The National Council of Privatization has appointed a transaction advisor. They have studied 4 river basins, and the report is almost ready. Last week I was informed by the DPE that the report will be out soon. So based on the outcome of the report, we'll be able to determine what is the next line of action. But we'll also be working with them towards this idea of commercialization. So that is where we are. Also, we have entered into MOU with some major contractors for BOT projects, especially in hydropower. I think right now we're talking with two entities that want to invest 100% of their resources under a build, operate, and transfer arrangement for hydropower projects, Makodi and Lokoja. One has about capacity of 1,000 megawatts, the other has a capacity of 750 megawatts. So they're still doing their studies. These are potential areas again that we can get revenue. They were also trying to get the Burara 2, which is another 360 megawatts hydropower project, partially through China Exim loan, but the promoter wants to invest 15% of their own money also into it. And so it's a kind of BOT, loans from BOT also. So there are quite a chunk of things which are, but again, like I said, one main thing is water is an economic commodity. The idea of even taking raw water for free is not in our books, but that is the practice. We must find a way to ensure that people that are taking raw water, or people that are even mining groundwater, bottling companies and so on, are paying for, they must be paying some royalties for these kind of things. To obtain water licenses, we have the law, we have the regulation, but we don't have a regulator, a strong regulator yet. Without it, we cannot maybe challenge some of these things in court at the moment. And I stand to be corrected, but I think that's the situation. So these are some of the things, like I said, but going forward, if we have the necessary ingredients in place, we should be able to do better in that respect. But I stand with you on it. That they're giving us. I know the House of Representatives duly passed the Water Resources Bill last year. The problems arose because Senate couldn't get to pass their own. So I know I'm very much comfortable with what you said. I know I can take it to the bank because I know the House of Representatives fully understands and appreciates the need for this bill. Unfortunately, it was unnecessarily politicized, in my view, but this bill is good for this country, it's good for everybody. All people need to do is try to understand what it's all about. And the fact is, 80 to 90% of the provisions of that bill are already in the Water Resources Act 2004. They are in the River Basin Development Agencies Act. They are in the National Water Resources Institute Act. They are in the Nigerian Hydrological Services Act. The laws are there. It was just trying to consolidate all these laws and then putting, garnishing it with this aspect of integrated water resources management. And that is essentially devolving certain responsibilities or powers of the minister down to catchments and stakeholders. As minister, I will be very comfortable to continue operating under the Water Resources Act 2004 because it gives me enormous powers. But the Water Resources Bill is crippling, taking away certain of these powers and giving them to states and giving them to stakeholders. And I still can't understand why the rancor, if people really understand that this is what it's all about. So if it's about selfish interest, I will not promote this bill because I will be very happy to be the one to direct whatever happens in the water resources sector in the country without anybody prognosing into it, so to speak. Thank you very much. Thank you, House of Representatives. I'm coming. That's about it. The next question is about Doma Dam. I've been there physically, and I think I can tell you also that I have some affinity with Doma in the last few years. I've seen how the potential of that place. Initially when we came, there was a plan to concession the hydropower component. That hasn't been done, but there is an ongoing discussion now. I think if you take the MD of Lower Benue aside, he will give you an update of what is going on. But we are working towards maximizing the full potential of that area. I know we have leased out some of the land because the river basin does not have the capacity to the financial capacity to develop the place fully. We have given 2 private sector large-scale farmers certain tracts of the land under certain conditions. They've given us their business plans, and they're going to help to develop along with the farmers. They are not taking over. We are not giving them the land for free. They are leasing. So that's another area where we're getting revenue from leasing of land to commercial farmers. We're also leasing land for the surface of the dam itself, the lake, for fish farming, what we call cage fish farming. And we have over 240 dams. And we've been saying, we've been advertising, anybody interested in cage fish farming, he should come to us. We'll give him a portion of the land. We will pay for the acreage, for the lease of the acreage, and we will pay for the water use. And so these, again, are also areas for revenue generation. And we have quite, if you go to Oyanda, even Gurara, if you go to Kampe Oni, you'll see quite a number of commercial fish farmers now operating. And we're opening more. So members, if you have some, because members of your constituencies, there are dams, our federal dams around there, they want to invest and do cage fish farming, let them come to us. We will give them the permission. We give them, they pay the water charges and the total area they want. We already have rates for them. They pay and they continue. And then we have certain conditions for quality, water quality control and so on that they must abide by. And that's it. So DOMA, we know, and something is being done about it. But like I said, maybe the MD Upper Niger, Lower Benue should be able to tell you more. But in view of, for sake of time, maybe you can take him as an aside, and let him give you the update. Yes, Honorable Fulata. Well, Honorable Fulata, I must inform you from an engineering point of view, I'm sorry, we do apologize. There is, in that area, it is not feasible to build a dam. Because I know from experience that even the roadworks that have been around that area, I was involved in a roadworks project from Zakire up to Guri, and I know that by the time you get to Hadija, there is no way you'll find a suitable sub-base material. The contractor had to be importing the soil from the laterite from Zakire to be able to do that, because it's black cotton soil around that area. So that soil is not suitable for an embankment. And that is one reason why you see the embankments on Hadija irrigation, they have been eroding over time. And it's just now that the trimming project is trying to rehabilitate them. So honestly, it is not feasible to build dams in that particular location. The only location within Jigawa State that I can build dams, to the best of my knowledge, are the areas around where you have the boundaries between the basement complex and the Chad formation. Those areas are Roni, Kazore, Gwiwa side, to those areas of Jigawa bordering Katsina and around Bunyukudu. Anywhere in between that is a floodplain, and it's very, very difficult to build. But you told me that they approved, out of the 3 sites, they approved 1 that is possible. Who? The directors. Well, I'm not aware. I'll have to ask the director later but as you know, I'm also from Jigawa State. You don't know that area very well. I do to some extent. I know most of it is a floodplain. I do know. So I think we need to move on. Well, we can have an aside also. Yes. Yeah, I'm coming. I have them all listed. Proposed for rehabilitation of dams in 2019. Ongoing dam projects, whether any provision in 2020, and then talk about initiative. Well, let me speak in general that, again, I'll say that all our efforts are geared towards completing ongoing projects. We inherited 37 dam projects in 2015. ongoing and abandoned. We prioritize them. Some of them we canceled because they were not viable. Some of them have gone far. They are not viable, but we still have to finish them. I'll give an example of what's the name of this guy? Come on. This dam in off Enugu. Ivo Dam.
Ivo.
Yes. Ivo Dam.
I think that's Enugu State.
Enugu State.
Yes.
I went there physically
case work
and found out, look, so many things were going wrong over the years in our ministry. That dam, as I found out, is not even viable. But a lot of work had been done, a lot of money had been spent, and we can't abandon it. But simply for the sake of safety of the communities, we agreed to finish it. But with some modifications so that we...
And it has hydro component.
Well, the truth of the matter is that it was just an assumption. The dam cannot carry any hydropower.
But what means that why do you vote money for it?
No, sir. We have all the projects that had hydro component in my ministry. When we came, the first thing we did a technical audit of all the projects. And all those that even had hydropower component, we removed them. The only ones we left are Obese Dam in Ekiti. I think that one we left because the potential is there. Well, Ogwashuku, it cannot support hydropower. There are two main parameters that you should consider. First one, the storage capacity. Second, the head. If the dam is the head is not good enough to drop water to turn a turbine, it's of no use. It happened at that time there was a policy of the then government that we should maximize the utilization of our dams, and therefore because of the thirst for energy for power, and they felt that any dam that can have a hydropower component there should be a hydropower component in it. But the problem is that policy was taken too far, to the extent that certain projects, there was no proper design, there was just an assumption. Many of those projects were started without any proper design anyway, without any proper step. So at the end of the day, you had projects, there was a hydropower component. I don't want a white elephant project. I've seen in Oyan Dam, 9 megawatts of electricity completed in 1987. Till today, the turbines are there. One has been installed, 2 are in their crates, and they've been wasting for more than 30 years. They've not been implemented.
Through your ministry, Mr. Minister, or Ministry of Power?
Yes, it's through my ministry. So now they've been concessioned. We've worked with Ministry of Power to concession them. But it's Ministry of Power that is driving the concession. But they will pay us for the water rates and everything when they do it. I cannot know at what stage. I know they've been concessioned because they were brought to Federal Executive Council. But how far beyond that approval, I cannot say. So we have cancelled a lot of what we have done, even where we think there is a potential for hydro. We said, okay, let's do the outlet and let's leave it there. Anybody that is interested, we can concession it to him, then he will build the power plant and build the turbines and bring the evacuation lines. Because we cannot build and put a turbine, just like was done in Oyan Dam, and then for the next 10, 20 years, the turbines are there, rats are eating the cables and so on, and there's nobody to take it up. So that is the way it is. Galma Dam was also there. Galma Dam in particular, along with Ivo, we discovered that there is no enough storage capacity to even build the hydro. But there was a hydro component. So we have stopped them. Wherever you see those, originally they had hydro power component, we have stopped them. The only one that I can remember offhand is Obese Dam in Ekiti State. That one, it is still viable, so we have left the hydro component for that. But in Yishi Dam, as far as I know, was completed. There was some damage, which we've been attempting to repair. I think we have done that. And then there is a water scheme there. By the time we got back, the former governor came to complain. I sent a team to check it. The entire place had been vandalized. It had a complete water scheme with generator, transformer, water treatment facilities, pumping systems, all vandalized. So we have to redo it. But I think Dams, the dam has been repaired?
We have advertised.
Okay, we have advertised for the so we're starting anew. Then Kwantagora Auna. Kwantagora Auna is, was started in 1987. It was abandoned. We have restarted the project, and it's one of our priority projects. And now the work is at 65% completion. So we are going on with that project, and we're happy that Mr. President even gave us some special grant from the National Resource Development Fund to continue with the project. So that's a top priority project, and it's ongoing. And the final question, and I don't know, Chairman, whether you'd like me to answer this question.
No, don't worry.
We know the problem. Okay, thank you.
Leverage that the parliamentarians have in dealing with their agencies when it comes to projects that will benefit the communities. We do that, we reach an understanding. I think that was the understanding that was reached here. Yeah. Probably his predecessor didn't brief him very well, and perhaps that's why they got, but we'll make sure, I'm sure the ministry will get this things done properly. There's one particular question Dr. Moreno wanted to raise, and we can give him the opportunity to raise it, then we can move.
For giving me a second bite and sharing. My question straight away is in respect of your internally generated revenue. We want to be briefed about the position of your IGR, particularly in respect of 2019. We also want to know, it appears you've been there for quite some years now. How have you been operating? Because by the Fiscal Responsibility Act and some circulars, you're supposed to remit either partly or wholly. Some they remit 75%, they have 25% which they spend, and of course which must be spent with the approval of the chairman of the committee. I don't know what is your home. I don't know what exactly is the position of your IGR.
Those agencies, I think they are, and in the course, I think when you begin to take them the respective public defense sessions, I think they should be able to respond to this question. But speaking for the ministry, I don't have any idea beyond this money that we collect as tender fee, which goes directly into TSA account.
2019. Coming to this point, Mr. Chairman. Sir?
I have an observation. It's not possible. I'm sorry, I beg to disagree because there are so many options. You see, by leaving it to continue to accumulate, it's like we are wasting that property. Maybe subsequently, when we are proposing a new site, we look out for either a dump site or a borrow pit, where we can, during our desilting, we can now take stock materials to those dump sites and borrow pit. Because even if we put them in borrow pit or dump site, we are adding value to those dump sites and also the borrow pit in future. So in doing our design, I think it is important, if that is a factor, we should recognize within that catchment area where we have dump sites and borrow pits, because we are adding value to those dump sites and borrow pits.
Understanding how this certain palaver is. At this point, let me say that the committee is satisfied with the budget performance of 2019, and we move on to the 2020 budget. Honourable members, I believe you have the copy of the budget 2020 before you. Yeah. Please, if there is any observation, you can raise it. If there is any concern, you can raise it. It's just an estimate, just as provided by the Constitution. The President presented and laid before the National Assembly estimate of the 2020 and they go through the scrutiny of the parliament. This is one aspect of it. The rest aspect of it will follow. There before you, you have a copy of the 2020 budget. The minister had made his own observe. If you are satisfied, we put the question that the House Committee on Water Resources has received the budget estimate of water resources for 2020, and it will go for consideration. This committee has received the budget estimate of the Water Resources Ministry, and we put it before the committee for consideration as we move on. Put the question. Is it the wish of this committee to accept the budget estimate of the Ministry of Water Resources?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah. Is it the wish of the committee? Can somebody move a motion to that?
Honorable Chairman, honorable members, I move that our committee accepts this 2020 budget proposal from the Ministry of Water Resources and adopts the for the purpose of 2020.
Honorable Chair, my name is Honorable Abokan. I second the motion moved by the Honorable Muraino that the committee has accepted the budget of water resources. Thank you.
The Committee of Water Resources of the House of Representatives hereby received the budget estimates and budget proposal of the Water Resources Committee, and we will put it for consideration before the committee as we move on. Those that are in favor of this, please say aye.
Aye.
Those that are not in favor, please say nay. The ayes have it. Honourable Minister, your budget proposal has been received. It will go through the normal surgery. It will go through the normal processes, and then the committee will work on it. But like I told you, will be fair and will be just. That's about it. But then I have some observations. This is a takeaway. I have some concerns. I've studied relatively well about the functions of the ministry, their projects. My concern is one on Gurara Water Transfer Lot B. It was finished 2001, 100%. The other concern is this Amazari Earth Dam. It was finished 2001, complete 100%. Alkari Earth Dam, Lower Ogun Irrigation Project, but we won't come to the river basin. But these are some of the things that you need to take with you. Mr. Minister, why I'm talking to this project predates you in that ministry. Mr. Minister, Nigerian civil servants are not very nice people. I was one. In this budget, I can show you projects. Your ministry staff located in their constituency, in their villages. They left the ministry. They still have influence of what happens in their ministry. I'm not accusing them. That's the normal thing. But it's our rule, it's our duty to call your attention so that you can address these issues. There are certain things that you may not know up to the time you leave the ministry. But you just need to call your attention on some of, because this Lower Ogun irrigation project, it was there since 1990. Only 45% of it is completed. There is Tochi irrigation project. It was awarded since 1998. Only 58% of it is finished. Hadeja Valley irrigation project, since 2001, only 50% is finished. On Ivo, I know the influence behind it, but we'll work around it when we come to consider this budget, so that we'll address these issues, so that we will have projects completed. Those that are not viable, we strike them out. Then, Honorable Minister, Galma You just said it's not viable project.
No, the hydropower.
The hydropower, the component. I know the dam was completed since 2006. The irrigation aspect is about taking off. Then there is another Galma multipurpose dam again, phase 2. Check the budget. Check the budget. When I'm just giving you these takeaways. When you go back, you have your concern. Let us know before we finish cleaning up the budget and make a presentation before the House. And I know that thing has been awarded, and I'm presenting it before you so that you can make them as a takeaway. Honourable Minister, the committee is a bit concerned on the other sources of funding for the ministry's budget, especially in the area of the Natural Resources Fund, the Ecological Fund, the international and multilateral funding, and the donor agencies. These are some components that make up the budget of the Federal Ministry of Water Resources. The committee is not availed to that record. That information, it will assist us, it will redirect our attention on projects that we can redefine and reorganize them on the line item of our budget and present it to the House for passage. Honourable Minister, let me call your attention on something that I have seen on the budget of the Ministry of Water Resources that perhaps maybe some members observed in the course. They migrated from MDG time, now they are under SDG. There is no location, no name of the contractor, and a number of them are not completed, and they have been there. Go through the budget of the ministry. I've gone through the budget of the Ministry of Water Resources from 2007. That was when I was in the National Assembly. I've gone through it, coming up again. If care is not taken in this budget, we will just strike it out. Because we know somehow it is a conduit. There are projects that are conduits. You may not know. We're just helping you, just take away. So, Honourable Minister, try to take note of these 27 small earth dams. You have just said an earth dam in your area is not viable. I believe some of these 27 earth dams, they just channel money there, then they become conduit where you can, because some of them are ranging to about 6.1 billion. If you look at the quantum of the money that the ministry officials, some of them, you know what I'm talking about. So you need to sit down with your ministry officials, get these things sorted out so that these things should not be embarrassing that ministry. They have been occurring on the budget of the ministry. And Mr. Minister, the ministry has a lot of potentials, but you have one problem. Your advocacy is very poor. Your advocacy is very poor. You need to get out there, let Nigerians, let the officials of the Ministry of Water Resources. Our water asset is so tremendous, are littered all over the country. We need to harness them. We need to concession those that we need to concession. We need to privatize those we need to privatize and get on the ministry moving. Mr. Minister, you spoke about Sabki Dam. Sabki Dam predates you in that ministry, but I was disappointed. That dam has a problem because it's downstream. Where was the study? Where was the EPA? Where was the study? What we need a copy of that study so that we found out those who did that job. You should call them an account of their failure of judgment. Because apparently what I'm saying, will give way. It will not last because it's not viable. It's upstream. So please, Honourable Minister, take note of these things and then get correct information to the members so that the members can understand these issues when we come to the consideration of this 2020 budget. Thank you very much.
Was to do a technical audit of all the projects in the ministry. That's why I knew that I inherited 116 ongoing projects. And I did mention earlier in my statement that we even knocked some of them off. If you don't, please, I know I don't, that I also need time, but I think I need to explain certain things, because when you go to necessarily be there to speak. But I would like to tell you that we took steps on many of them. Gurara, for instance, that you're talking about, yes, I agree with you. In my view, my personal view is that there are certain projects in that ministry that were never intended to be finished, but we're finishing them. I realized, I saw that from day one, and I have been committed to finishing them. We have already, like the pipeline, which even over no certificate of practical completion, we have succeeded in doing that. We've paid off the contractor and told him to move out of sight. We've appointed a facility management team to oversee the entire complex. The dam was finished since 2007. The contractor is still on site. They finished the hydropower component in 2011. It was never handed over. We did it. We have now concessioned it. Under this administration, we insisted that we must complete the work and hand over. The only production line in Kaduna between Kudenda and Mando, which was delayed because as far as I'm concerned, they gave it to the wrong contractor. But even then, we've been pushing Ministry of Power, and I understand that that project will be finished by December. So hopefully, Gurara will be up and running. But at least we have taken over the hydropower company and concessioned it. We have taken over the irrigation company. We have paid off the contractor and taken over the site. We have paid off for the maintenance. FCT is supposed to pay half of it. We have paid our own half. And we have arranged for a team from the ministry and consultants and water and Abuja State Water Board and FCT Water Board to take over the pipeline. So we've been doing everything, but there are liabilities, Chairman, that we have to pay for. And these are some of the things that you see in the budget. Then there is also, because to concession the plant for no operation, there is a separate outlet for the irrigation. The gate for the hydropower, because there was no hydropower, the turbines were not working, so the gate was not, so the whole thing, you know, I think there was rust or something, the gates were not even moving, so they had to be serviced. Then the idle time that the power plant has been there, we also had to replace certain parts and so on, and therefore we had to go to Federal Executive Council to get a contract, to do a contract for the concession. And that is being done, and that is why you see some of them. So many of the dams you see, maybe, I don't know why, probably I will be asking why they are still on the budget But if you see the amount that is there, it's probably nothing to write over. I think it's just notional. But there are certain projects that we've already said we're not doing. We've struck them out. And if we've struck them out, I don't see any reason why they should even be appearing in the budget. I think it is some kind of sloppiness. But after some time, some arguments came, some specific ones had reached 80% or 85%. And we felt if that has been done, we better commit the 15% to finish them. I accept your point. We need to know those specific dams. It's not all the 27 that are, there are probably about 3, 4 or 5 that are, but that is the heading, the original heading. I think that is why they're taking it. But the Dams Department will provide the information on those specific ones. That project has been cancelled, but there is a liability because it's been taken over by trimming. That's the World Bank project. But because there is a liability, the contractor has been paid. We've been paying every year. We put certain amount of money, and whatever is appropriated, we pay. I think there's still about 500 million or so to pay the original contractor because they were working on the project. And World Bank came and said they would take over the project. So the contractor was asked to stop, and that's what we've been trying to settle. But now it's been completely taken over by the World Bank. So it's not an ongoing project as far as directly by the ministry, but by the World Bank, which is being paid from the World Bank facility. But this liability has to be paid. And that's why they kept it on the budget line, just to pay for it. Because until that is done, then we cannot have a closure and say fully that we've closed the...
Why didn't you put, instead of putting the project?
With you, Mr. Chairman, but the problem also is, I will tell you, and that is what to be part of my closing statement. I think over the last, I think there's the, I'm sure it's not the Water Resources Committee, but once these documents leave you and go to Appropriations Committee, when they are looking for anywhere to cut, they've been cutting on these liabilities. So we felt it was safer for us to just leave them, you know, because it's not been closed. At least whatever, if we put it under liability, and the Appropriations Committee or whoever, I'm sure that is going to be their target. They will go for the jugular. And that has been part of our problem. But if we have this understanding that whatever liability, and I'm telling you, is not small, that will be left in that, we have no problem. We can quietly sanitize this and take it out. Again, Ivo, I've had to component because it's not viable. I've cancelled the hydropower component because it's not viable. The only reason why we're keeping Ivo to finish it is because if we don't, it has a serious impact on the downstream communities. So it's only for safety consideration. And then there's a water component attached to it. The water project is like 100% completed. What happened was last year we were even going to commission, we had set a date to commission the water scheme. But again, because of that upstream problem of the dam, which I point where the water treatment plant is supposed to take the raw water was eroded. So there was a serious erosion which we now have to go back and rectify. And that is why that project is still in the books. Otherwise, it would have been commissioned since November last year. And Galma, yes, we have phase 1 and phase 2. The dam is phase 1. Again, even Galma, we had to do some sanitization. Because when I came, they had also included with the bridge for about a certain number of billions of naira. And then they put the hydropower component. Then when we did the technical audit, we discovered that there isn't enough water to support the hydropower. So we removed it and we saved money there. Then the road project, I asked why. They said because of inundation, there is a community that has been cut off and they need to build a bridge across the dam. I said, is there an alternative source for this community to reach? I said, then we're not spending this money because we need to spend money to finish the project. And so we have done some rejigging of the finances. So what we're working now, where you see two heads there, one is to complete paying the liability on the dam construction, which we have not fully paid. And then the second one is the irrigation component that we have now accepted to do. And so there's only the dam and the irrigation component. One of it actually is outstanding money that we need to pay. Yes, okay, I've talked about. So these are, then Sabke, you talked about Sabke Dam. When Sabke Dam was designed and built, it was more than 20 years ago. It was built by PTF. Yes. And PTF was not doing this project on its own. It was relying on information it was getting from government agencies. It was been designed by Sokoto Rima Basin, I think, or the Ministry of Water, I can't remember. I wasn't directly.
They are not Sokoto Rima, but fine.
Yes, so the design was done by a government agency, so PTF only implemented the project. And so all the EIN or whatever ought to have been done, should have been done by them. But the point is, at the time Sabke was built, those upstream dams that I'm talking about were not there. So they came after Sabke Dam. That is why if you go to Sabke, if you see the intake tower, you see the maximum flood level. You see that when it was first impounded. But subsequent activities, like I said, by Katsina State government led to this. And it's because of all this lack of integrated water resources management approach. There was nobody knew. The ministry here did not know what Katsina State was doing on the water resources, on the waterways, on the rivers. So if we had known, probably would have even if we would allow the dam to go, we would have put some mitigation measures to ensure that the downstream community was not affected. And that is one. I agree with you on the issue that we need to say, give you more information on the donor funds, the NRDF. NRDF is not something that is guaranteed. We have to justify to the president, and it comes sometimes after the budget has been passed. when we realize we need additional funding for certain specific projects, not all projects, grants to be able to accomplish some of these projects. And that is why we are lucky to have accelerated projects like the Zobe Water Supply Project with Pantagora on the Dam, Gary Irrigation, and a host of others. And we can provide, even Kashimbila, we can provide the information. For Ecological Fund, the only project I know is Kashimbila, that Saki also, oh yes, and Saki. So we'll be able to provide you with that information. There's no problem about it. Chairman, we're doing our best, but I'll tell you now, like the information, it was just brought to my attention yesterday. We made provision for about 50 million, almost 50 million for our press department, and I understand that even before it got here, it has been cut to about 5 million. So how do we blow our trumpet? Mr. Minister, yes. Thank you for that, yes. Mr. Minister. Is there any intervention? Is there a question about this P-wash thing? First of all, I'd like to draw members' attention to the fact that the Ministry of Water Resources is the custodian or the champion of Sustainable Development Goals 6. That is 6.1 and 6.2 related to water, sanitation, and hygiene. When I came into office, I got the statistics for the Millennium Development Goals. We just subscribed to the Sustainable Development Goals. I asked the question about the Millennium, that was in 2016. I asked a question about the Millennium Development Goals. Why is it that we have not attained our target? And we realized at that time we had done well on water, fairly well, 69%. We were supposed to get to 75, but we did 69. But we were very, very low at 20-something percent on sanitation. And 50% of the lack of coverage is in the rural areas. But 50% of the rural population did not have access if you broke the data down. So I asked the question, why did we fail to achieve the Millennium Development Goals? And we realized it's because we are relying solely on budgetary allocation. And as long as it's going to be on budgetary allocation, we're not going to get there. And now say, okay, well, now that we have the Sustainable Development Goal, we have to find a way to address this issue. And that led to the creation of P-Wash. P-Wash was aimed to achieve a number of things. Number one, one of the key drivers operating in this country, UNICEF, WaterAid, USAID, and JICA, all doing water projects here and there. But you can't see the effect because they are all doing pilot projects. I said no. We have to have a rural water supply and sanitation program that we own, that the federal government, Nigeria owns it, not federal government, that is owned by Nigeria. And everybody else that is coming into this country to support us must do going on everywhere, and we have a data of how we are performing. So that led to the creation of P-Wash, and we called it Partnership for Expanded Water Supply, Sanitation and Hygiene. And we said, and the President has echoed that when we launched the National Wash Action Plan last year. State governments were abdicating their responsibility in providing water and sanitation. They were not prioritizing water and sanitation. So they are relying simply on the development partners and from the federal government. And we now said no, states must be involved, must get involved. So let's bring this program also as an incentive to states so that from now on, any intervention that the federal government is going to do will be done only when there is a counterpart response from the states. So it will be, and that is why I was very particular that the name should start with that word partnership. And we built up a protocol. We now said from now on, federal government is no longer going to intervene. If we have a plan to provide 50 boreholes or water schemes in a particular state, the state must commit to doing 50 also, so that we have 100. If they are not ready to do that, then federal government will not take its money there. And we rolled it out. It was launched by the Vice President in November 2016, and we invited all this. And we worked with the states. We even brought it to the National Council on Water Resources. We discussed it, and we put some protocols, some conditions, and we said any state that is interested is not compulsory conditions. So far, we have about 24, 25 states that have subscribed. And we started with a pilot project from 2017, budget 2017 and 2018. And the first two states that responded were Kano and Ogun State. So we said, okay, since they were the first to hear our call, let us start this pilot program with them. And in those 2 years, Mr. Chairman, between Kano or Ogun State, I don't have the figure per state, but between the two combined, or constructed a total of about 700 water schemes between those two states. And even though we have not been getting the response, but they have responded, but not to the extent that we want, but at least they have responded. And now we want to expand it because we had a program that the first 2 years is pilot, subsequently will increase. And that is why we have this huge provision so that and Kano, and now we want to move to another set of states. In addition to that, Mr. Chairman, we're also discussing with the World Bank. World Bank is ready now to commit $350 million to this program, to the Rural Access Program under the auspices of PWASH. Hopefully by next year it will be there, and it's going to be competed between the states. So again, certain conditions will be put in place for the states to try to leverage this fund. We are doing it to incentivize them. A company that is also supporting our campaign to end open defecation by 2025. And one key thing we are putting there also is to use it as a basis to also generate employment. And therefore, we have identified what we call water and sanitation entrepreneurship within that program, so that people can appreciate that you can actually invest money and build a water scheme with a toilet attached and make some money, or you build a toilet in a motor park and you make, and people are...
Honorable Chairman, you said about 20-something states or so responded in the beginning. Can we know, as at now, how many states have really responded?
About the PWASH thing?
Yes, about the PWASH, as at now.
People, they have the right to kick against it because it is futuristic. In the next 100 years, it will affect the yet generation unborn, and we don't know how it will look like. So we need to take that into consideration as well. Not that people don't like that your bill. I believe there isn't much advocacy about it. There isn't much advocacy because some jurisdictions they have it. Some jurisdictions they have it, but that's just my concern for that. And I think at this point we can say leave, and we can take the three agencies that are with us.
Thank you. Just of both organizations. So we should be the first to be making our contribution, because it is embarrassing our president, it is embarrassing our country. So I would appeal to you to look at that seriously, and also this ODF campaign, the sanitation, and in future we are going to come with a framework also for a wash fund, so that we hope to support this campaign. Nigeria is said to be #1 in the world practicing open defecation. We can't accept this. We must get out of this mess as quickly as possible. So I would like to appeal to honorable members to also support us and defend us before the Appropriations Committee to ensure that the funding that we need for this project is adequately provided. I thank you most sincerely, honorable members, and beyond this session, if there are any other information or you need me back to come and clarify any issues, I remain available. Thank you very much and have a good afternoon. Honorable Minister, before you go, my doctor said he has a personal question or personal comment, so that it will be a takeaway for you that will strengthen your PWASH. Think about it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. From your explanation on this PWASH, it's very clear that it's not all the states that are embraced. I'd also said it's clear that at some state, at some points, there may be problem of ownership. People can claim to own all these things and maintain them. So I'm just wondering, is it possible to allow established communities to apply to be considered, so that they will also bring some counterpart funding as they are doing for some other projects, so that they apply to you, they bring their counterpart funding, and then these projects are established, and then they also take over the ownership and maintain thereafter.
The minister needs to rush to the Senate. I promised him that we will meet at 2 o'clock. He requested us to, he has 2 o'clock appointment. So we'll give him this 2 o'clock. So Minister, you can. I think we will give 10 minutes break. Do we give 10 minutes break? Yes. Or we continue? We can. 20. Okay. A member is requesting 20. I think let's be more democratic. Let's give it that. Yeah. For the Muslim of us that can have their prayers. Some of us are older. They can go to the washroom.